first one coming from Coach John Bronkhorst. There are so many versions of the air raid, or what people claim is the air raid, out there now. Is yours and Coach Leach's original version of the air raid still best for high school to use no matter the school size? If so, why?
Well, good question, John. And there is a lot out there right now. I think people have dumbed it down some because it's just human nature to want to add your own twist to everything. So I think that's happened a lot. Uh, but I do think the original version of it with four verticals, mesh, Y cross is the best way to go. And so if you're doing that, then you're in the ballpark. And some of these guys, they claim to be air raid, but they're all they're doing is running RPOs and stuff like that. But uh, I, I I think four verticals mesh, Y cross. That's like the original part of it. So if you're doing those three things, then you're still in the game.
Next question. Coach Anthony Ivany. Many system coaches, triple option, single wing, wing T, etc., claim by being in those systems they're contrarian, they're running the ball, controlling the clock, and by doing that will allow less talented teams to lessen the talent gap by keeping the game artificially close. Can the same be said about the air raid offense?
Well, Anthony, I think that the air raid was never made to control the clock. In fact, the clock's one of the least important things you can talk about. It's the time of possession is it is an illegitimate stat. It doesn't really mean anything. What counts is how many times you score. You know, how many times you make first downs. Yeah, chart your first downs, chart your scores. That's what counts. So, uh, in that respect, I don't think. I guess we're being contrarian in the fact that we don't agree with that, but yeah, that just count your scores, count your first downs.
Next question. Coach Brandon Mills, when you built up programs like Iowa Westland or even Copper's Cove, what were some of the key things you learned or did that helped you develop the programs?
Well, Brandon, I think probably the best things I didn't have anything to do with air raid. It just had to do with people. And at Copper's Cove, I worked for a great superintendent named Dr. Richard Kirkpatrick, and he taught me how to deal with people. How to, you have to always remember when a parent calls you, the most precious thing they're dealing with is their son. And so he taught me that, and I think that's really important, no matter where you're at, what level. Uh, Iowa Wesleyan, I think what we learned there probably was that you can do the impossible, but you have to be willing to work with people, and that's what we did there. We worked with people. We people in town support us. People in the Iowa Wesleyan community support us. I mean, you had to go get those people to work with you. You can't just be about O's and X's. You got to be about people.
Coach Jack Duffy, your top five most accurate passers, college or pro. Appreciate all you've done in the passing game. For football, I miss Mike Leach.
Oh, I'm with you, Jack. I miss him too. And the top five for me, pretty easy to name. I mean, first is Dustin Dewald. at Iowa Wesleyan who is totally underrated. People don't know his name as much as they should, but he was the first air raid quarterback, and he was maybe one of the best. I mean, he he, uh, he was totally accurate, and he was totally fearless, and he could get the ball off in any situation. So he's number one. Number two would be Chris Hatcher at Valdosta State. Chris was the opposite of Dustin. I had to learn between those two schools to either block it up or let them rush. At Iowa Wesleyan, Dustin wanted to let us rush, and he would get the ball off to backs and people underneath if he needed to. At Valdosta State, Chris Hatcher wanted him blocked up because he was going to throw it downtown whenever he could. So, and he was very accurate at it. So Chris would be number two for sure. At Kentucky, Tim Couch for sure. Three. Jared Lorenzen, four. I never got to coach Jared as much as I wanted to because they got run off at Kentucky. But Jared would have, if I had stayed in Kentucky, Jared would have been the leading passer in the SEC to this day. He was a strong arm guy. He was a brilliant guy. God bless him. He just was a great player. And I think the last one was probably Jake Mullen at McMurray. Jake was Jake was a 4-year starter for us. He threw for 12,000 plus yards, and he was talented. He did a lot of great things. Uh, we were the only D3 school to ever beat a D1 school. Uh, Jake was a wonderful passer and a great athlete. So that's my group.
Coach Dan Brown, could you tell us your three quick game concepts and three drop back concepts that you couldn't live without?
Well, Dan, that's pretty easy. Dan, you gotta have stick. You gotta have on the quick game. You gotta have stick, corner, and hitch with inside fade. You gotta have that. So that part's easy. And then on the drop back part, obviously four verticals, mesh, and Y cross.
There we go. Next question, Coach Brian McGee. When and where is the next Air Raid certified clinic, national clinic?
Well, Brian, I hope we're going to have that soon. I think we'll have an announcement here soon, and we'd like to do it next spring, someplace. And I wish I had a definite answer for you, but I don't. But we look forward to doing it. Look forward to visiting with all you guys, and I appreciate every one of you for being part of this.
Right. And it's the hiring cycle. We are seeing where coaches land. The goal is to have it in the spring of 2024. And the reason being is we'll have coaches come in and host clinics too. And then we want to be able to go to a practice before or after the clinic and see air raid drills being ran and a scrimmage with an air raid team. And so where that's going to be exactly is to be determined, but that's kind of the goal for this one is to get some on hands
Well, we
coaches
should get
clinic.
it done in the next month or so. We should
Yeah,
know that. Yeah.
yeah. Could be in the XFL or UFL or whatever they're going to
Hopefully,
call our league.
hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll be someplace where everybody can learn,
Right.
and hopefully someplace everybody can get to fairly easy.
Right. Next question, Coach Jagger Graham. What are your top concepts versus 6 and 7 man pressures versus the blitz?
Good question. Versus six man, it's fairly easy. You got 5 on 5 out there, so you try and run a post. trying to run a wheel. You know, that's the best thing to do. The second one was what, 6 man or 7 man? He said 7 man pressure.
Correct.
Uh, if they're going to bring seven, that's pretty. There's somebody uncovered. So all you got to do is find that person and throw it to them. Even if it's a short pass, it doesn't be. Yeah, what we used to do a lot in that is we would go empty, and we take one of the guys and one run like a 3-step hitch or a 3-step shoot or a 3-step slant, and then everybody else would have a route. But if we got 7 man pressure, I mean, you just have to throw it to the guy underneath. All you do is throw it to the 3-step guy.
Coach Sean McGrath, what would be your adjustments with a weak arm quarterback?
John, weak arm quarterback. I always counted Chris Hatcher as a weak arm quarterback, and he became the most decorated guy in Division II. So I don't think weak arms are a kiss of death. You have to be able to throw the ball 35 yards down the field, and so if your weak arm guy can do that, then what you need to work on after that is accuracy. And Chris Hatcher was great at the drills and the diligent work. If you go back to Air Raid Certified Master's course and see the drills, you'll see what I'm talking about. You have to be diligent about. You have to be diligent about doing the drills. Weak arm guys are not necessarily guys you can't play with. They're just guys that you have to take advantage of what they do best.
Coach Scott Rigsby. Coach, I had issues at quarterback this year. Couldn't get his eyes disciplined and had trouble getting him to pull the trigger if a defender was too close. I tried several things to overcome it, but nothing worked. Didn't have a backup for him either. Any suggestions?
Well, Scott, I'll tell you what. First of all, he sounds like a young guy, so you got to continue to work with him. But you got to get his feet and his eyes synced up. So as he hits the steps in the progression of all our routes, and if you refer to Air Raid Certified the course and go through the progressions, you can see what I'm talking about. But you have to get it. You got to get him synced up with the progression, and that's a hard thing to do with a young guy a lot of times. But some of it's just about reps. You just got to give him enough reps to get it done. So I wouldn't give up on him. I would just keep working at it.
3 more questions here. Coach John Sacco, in your last
John?
in your last certification video, you mentioned late blue and dart open that alters formations. Are there any other formation or motion commands you have used?
Yeah, well, John, first of all, these motion commands and these formation commands are just whatever you want to make them. I mean, for instance, we would use like blue late blue, and then we'd motion the Y inside of Z, or bring them all the way across the other side of the field. You can do whatever you want with that stuff. I think the thing about motion commands that's important is not necessarily what I tell you to make them. It's what you make up, and keep them simple. Ours were always simple. We never had right or left commands. We just had we had dart, which was a kind of a left side of the field command, and we had late, which was kind of a right side of the field command. We just had we had one word commands. And what you're trying to do is keep your commands and what happens for the commands at a very minimum. And so that's what we did with that. So I, I would invite you to make up your own stuff.
Coach Gabe, in your opinion, has the air raid offense become too diluted from its purest form? Have we added too much to it?
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there running air raid that run 4 or 5 of our plays, and then they claim that they're air raid, but they are doing all this other stuff. I think the important thing about air raid is it on your play call sheet when you go into a game. If you got less than 50 plays, 50 situations, then you're ready to go. If you got more than that, you're probably doing too much. And so I think there's a lot of guys out there doing too much. I really do.
Last question here from Coach John Brown. How do you run the mesh drill?
Well, John, mesh drill is a pretty simple concept. Uh, all you're trying to do is teach the players to recognize man or zone. So we put 2 guys on defense. We run the mesh, and the 2 guys on defense either show man or they drop back in 45 angles and show zone. So if they show zone, our guys doing the mesh hook up, sit down. If they show man, then our guys doing the mesh climb. And we do this for like 4 to 6 minutes a day. And it's the best drill for mesh. It really is. I see a lot of people running mesh nowadays. They don't know what to do. They're only running the play because they saw it on film. They want to do it, but they don't know how to do it. And that includes a lot of NFL guys. No, you got to do this drill. If you don't do this drill, you're not going to be good at it. So anyway, it's a simple drill. It's an easy drill, and anybody wants to do it, I'll be happy to draw it up for them. But as I described already, that's the way it works.